Commander Maya Rodriguez stood at the edge of the training pit, her weathered face betraying no emotion as she watched the recruits struggle through the mud. Rain pelted down, turning the obstacle course into a nightmare of slick surfaces and hidden pitfalls. This was the infamous Tuesday morning warm-up of the 82nd Orbital Response Division, the unit tasked with humanity's first line of defense against extraterrestrial threats. Not that anyone truly believed such threats existed, until 6 days ago. "They're not ready," said Lieutenant Kai Iwamoto, her second-in-command. A lanky man with quick eyes and quicker hands, he'd been with her through 3 campaigns against Earth-based insurgents. "Hell, I'm not sure we're ready." Maya's jaw tightened. "None of us are ready. But they're coming anyway." The aliens, the Vraxian Hierarchy, had announced their arrival with mathematical precision. Their message, broadcast simultaneously to every communication device on Earth, had been unnervingly polite: "We arrive in 7 standard rotations. Prepare your governance authorities for transition protocols. Resistance is unnecessary and inefficient." The global panic had been immediate. But the military response had been surprisingly unified. When facing extinction, old enemies found common ground quickly. "How much time?" Kai asked, checking his tactical display. 24 hours, give or take," Maya replied. The advanced scout ships entered the Kuiper Belt last night. Below them, Private Eliza Chen fell face-first into the mud, her augmented exoskeleton malfunctioning in the downpour. It was the 3rd equipment failure that morning. The training gear, hastily modified with what little they'd gleaned from captured Vraxian tech, was still dangerously unreliable. Eliza pushed herself up, face streaked with mud, and kept moving. "No complaints." "No hesitation," Maya nodded approvingly. "She'll do. They all need to do," Kai muttered. "Or humanity won't see next week." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Amara Okafor, the division's lead xenobiologist. Her dark skin glistened with rain as she approached, tablet protected under her jacket. "Commander, you need to see this," she said, her Nigerian accent thickening with urgency. "We've intercepted communications between the scout ships and the main fleet." Maya took the tablet, eyes narrowing as she scanned the data. "They're confused?" Amara nodded. "They expected us to surrender immediately after their announcement. Our continued resistance pattern doesn't match any of their predictive models." "They don't understand humans," Kai said with a grim smile. Maya handed back the tablet. "Let's make sure they never do." Senior tactical analyst Ziv Zalin of the Vraxian 3rd Expeditionary Fleet stared at the holographic display with growing concern. The primitives, humans, as they called themselves, were not behaving according to established conquest protocols. "Sub-Commander, the data contradicts all known resistance patterns," he reported, his 4-digit hands manipulating the display to zoom in on various military installations around the primitive planet. "They continue preparations despite statistical certainty of defeat." Sub-Commander Vraxian's breathing sacs inflated slightly, the Vraxian equivalent of a sigh. "The conquest algorithms have never failed in 17 galactic cycles, analyst. Perhaps your interpretation is flawed. With respect, Sub-Commander, I've run the simulations 12 times. Ziv pointed to a training facility in what the humans called Montana. "They're actively adapting their technology based on our scout ship specifications. Primitive, yes, but innovative." Vraxian's upper eyes narrowed. "Irrelevant. Their technological development is approximately 2.4 cycles behind minimum viability for resistance. Their orbital defenses are negligible. Their atmospheric craft are laughably inefficient." "True," but Ziv hesitated, knowing his next words bordered on insubordination. "They fight differently. Look at these training exercises." The hologram shifted to show human soldiers engaging in various combat drills. Soldiers crawling through mud under electrified wire. Climbing sheer walls. Running for kilometers with heavy packs. Their physical training emphasizes endurance beyond any rational survival requirement, Ziv noted. They deliberately train under adverse conditions that no logical military would impose on its forces. Primitive stupidity, Vraxian dismissed. They waste resources hardening biological units when technology would be more efficient. Ziv zoomed in on one human female, who despite falling repeatedly, continued through an obstacle course. Sub-Commander, I believe we may be underestimating enough. Vraxian's secondary breathing sacs flared a warning sign of irritation. The conquest begins as scheduled. Prepare the preliminary bombardment grid. Ziv bowed his head in acquiescence, but as he returned to his station, he continued studying the humans with growing fascination. His species had conquered 37 civilizations across the galaxy, all of whom had responded according to predictable patterns of behavior. These humans, though, they were something new. The Vraxian bombardment began at dawn. Precision antimatter charges detonated above every major military installation on Earth, intended to eliminate resistance before ground forces arrived. The tactical AI that orchestrated the attack had a 99.7% success rate across 3 galaxies, but humans, as Maya Rodriguez had always known, were exceptional at being unpredictable. Status report, she barked, striding into the underground command center of Outpost Sigma. The facility, buried 2 kilometers beneath the Montana wilderness, shook with each distant impact. 87% of decoy sites successfully drawing fire, Commander, reported Communications Officer Park. Real assets remain at 94% operational capacity. Maya allowed herself a small smile. The strategy had been audacious, build obvious, easily detected military facilities as decoys while hiding the real operations underground or in civilian-seeming structures. It was wasteful, inefficient, and exactly the kind of illogical approach the mathematically perfect Vraxian battle computers hadn't anticipated. Casualties? She asked, her voice softening slightly. Minimal. Skeleton crews at the decoy sites evacuated via the subterranean networks. Civilian casualties. Park hesitated. Under 5,000 globally. The Vraxians are being precise, they're specifically targeting military assets. They want to rule us, not exterminate us, Dr. Okafor said, entering the command center with a tablet full of fresh intelligence. Their economic model requires labor resources. Dead planets produce no value. Maya nodded grimly. Then we'll make ourselves very, very expensive. The next 12 hours unfolded with calculated chaos. As Vraxian drop ships began planetary insertion, they encountered not the expected formal military resistance, but thousands of small, uncoordinated strikes. Civilian vehicles rigged with explosives. Hunting rifles fired from apartment windows. Homemade EMP devices detonating near landing zones. In the command center, Eliza Chen, now promoted to Special Tactics, coordinated civilian resistance cells across the Western Hemisphere. Her eyes were red-rimmed from sleeplessness, but her voice remained steady as she guided ordinary people in extraordinary acts of resistance. Phoenix Group, wait until they pass the gas station, then trigger the pipeline. Portland Cell, their sensors can detect large metal objects, so stick to ceramic weapons. Chicago Team, the subway tunnels are working perfectly, keep herding them into the dead-end sections. Kai approached Maya at the central holodeck, where she was studying the global situation. This isn't a military victory, he said quietly. We're just irritating them. For now, Maya agreed. But every minute they spend confused is a minute we have to prepare. Where are we on Operation Hornet? Proceeding. Dr. Okafor's team has successfully reverse-engineered their short-range communications. We can't decrypt their actual transmissions yet, but we can replicate the carrier wave. Maya's eyes glinted with dangerous purpose. Good. Prepare the squad. We move in 90 minutes. Ziv Zalin was no longer merely concerned, he was genuinely alarmed. The conquest algorithm was failing for the first time in Vraxian history. These patterns make no sense, he muttered, reviewing combat footage from Chicago sector. A Vraxian assault unit had been lured into a flooding underground tunnel system by seemingly scattered, disorganized humans. The unit had pursued what appeared to be retreating defenders, only to find themselves trapped when explosives collapsed the exit tunnels, rather than drowning, which would have been expected behavior for most species. The Vraxian soldiers had activated their emergency breathing apparatus. But that had been anticipated by the humans, who had added a corrosive chemical to the floodwaters that degraded the breathing equipment. It was barbaric. Primitive. Utterly brilliant. Analyst Ziv Zalin, report to command immediately, his communicator chirped. He found Sub-Commander Vraxian staring at casualty reports with all 4 eyes widened, the Vraxian expression of shock. Explain, Vraxian demanded without preamble, gesturing to the data. I cannot, Sub-Commander, Ziv admitted. Their resistance follows no known pattern. They appear to be operating with minimal central coordination, yet their actions display clear strategic purpose. The conquest algorithm is failing, Ziv interrupted, abandoning protocol. The algorithm assumes rational opponents who value self-preservation and efficiency. These humans. He struggled to find the appropriate term. They sacrifice efficiency for effectiveness. They accept casualties that no rational species would tolerate. Vraxian's breathing sacs inflated fully, a sign of extreme agitation. The Supreme Commander arrives in 6 hours. I must report success by then. Perhaps we should consider a revised approach, Ziv suggested carefully. Study their behavior more thoroughly before proceeding. Unacceptable. Deploy the neurological suppressors across all major population centers. If they will not submit rationally, we will force compliance. Ziv bowed his head, but his mind was racing. Something about these humans fascinated him in a way that went beyond academic interest. Their illogical, passionate resistance spoke to something long dormant in his own species' evolutionary past before the Vraxians had engineered emotion and unpredictability out of their genetic code. As he returned to his analysis station, an alert flashed across his display. A Vraxian communications node had gone offline in what the humans called Colorado. Then another in Wyoming. Then 3 more in rapid succession. The humans weren't just resisting. They were beginning to hunt. Maya Rodriguez hadn't seen daylight in 3 days. Her small strike team had been moving through the maintenance tunnels beneath Denver, systematically targeting Vraxian communications nodes with their newly developed electronic warfare packages. Targets acquired, whispered Eliza, who had proven herself indispensable over the past 72 hours. The young woman had an almost supernatural ability to predict Vraxian patrol patterns. Maya peered through the grating. 2 Vraxian technicians were calibrating what appeared to be a neural suppression transmitter, a device designed to broadcast compliance-inducing signals across the city. She signaled to Kai, who readied the disruptor. The device, cobbled together from salvaged Vraxian tech and good old-fashioned human ingenuity, looked like a mess of wires and circuit boards. But Dr. Okafor had assured them it would work. On my mark, Maya whispered. 3, 2, 1. Kai activated the disruptor. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the Vraxian technicians began moving erratically, their 4-fingered hands clutching at their communication devices. One collapsed immediately, the other staggered toward an alarm panel before Eliza's precisely aimed shot took it down. Clear, Maya announced. Chen, secure the transmitter. Iwamoto, get that neural suppressor offline. We've got 5 minutes before their security protocols trigger an automated response. As her team worked, Maya accessed the Vraxian terminal, downloading what data she could. Most was incomprehensible, but some had already been translated by their systems for local implementation. One file caught her attention, Human Resistance Anomaly Analysis. She copied it quickly. Time to move. Charges set? Kai nodded, placing the last explosive. 30 seconds. They retreated through the tunnels as the charges detonated behind them, destroying another piece of the Vraxian communication network. It was their 12th successful strike. Small victories, Kai muttered as they moved toward their next target. They add up, Maya replied. And we're not the only ones fighting back. Around the world, the pattern was repeating. Small teams targeting Vraxian infrastructure. Civilians creating distractions. Every predictive algorithm the aliens deployed failed because humans did not behave according to mathematical probabilities. They acted on emotion, instinct, and sometimes pure stubbornness. Back at Outpost Sigma, Dr. Okafor was waiting for them with barely contained excitement. We've cracked their primary communication protocols, she announced without preamble. And you'll never guess what we found. She pulled up a holographic display showing Vraxian fleet positions. They're vulnerable. Their main command ship entered orbit expecting total ground control. Instead, they're having to commit more resources to the ground campaign, leaving their orbital defense grid thin. Maya studied the display, a plan already forming. What about their Supreme Commander? Arrived 12 hours ago, Amara confirmed. currently aboard the command vessel. Maya turned to her team, eyes gleaming with dangerous purpose. How do you feel about space travel? Ziv Zalin had been summoned to the Supreme Commander's presence, a rare honor that, under the circumstances, felt more like a prelude to execution. Supreme Commander Kolvarin was imposing even by Vraxian standards. His exoskeleton had been enhanced with ceremonial armor denoting his countless successful conquests, and all 6 of his breathing sacs pulsed with barely controlled rage. Analyst, he began, his translator rendering his words into the formal dialect, explain why this primitive world continues to resist after 3 full cycles of conquest operations. Ziv straightened to his full height. Supreme Commander, the humans exhibit resistance patterns that contradict all known conquest algorithms. I did not ask for excuses, Kolvarin interrupted. I asked for explanation. The hierarchy does not accept failure. Ziv hesitated, then decided that truth was his only viable option. Supreme Commander, I believe our fundamental understanding of the humans is flawed. They do not prioritize survival or efficiency. They value. He searched for the correct term, freedom above optimal outcomes. Freedom, Kolvarin repeated, as if the word tasted strange. A primitive concept. Irrelevant to advanced civilization. With respect, Supreme Commander, it appears highly relevant to their civilization. They would rather die resisting than live under control. Kolvarin's upper eyes narrowed. Then they shall have their preference. Prepare the biological purge protocols. We will cleanse this planet and reseed it with compliant worker strains. Ziv's inner breathing sacs constricted in horror. Supreme Commander, such measures have not been employed in 17 cycles. The Hierarchy Council specifically restricted. The Council is not here, Kolvarin snapped. I am. The algorithms have failed, so we will resort to methods that cannot fail. Is that understood, Analyst? Yes, Supreme Commander, Ziv replied, bowing low to hide the conflict in his eyes. As he left the command chamber, a security alert sounded. Perimeter breach in Shuttle Bay 4, the automated system announced. Unknown intruders detected. The humans had somehow reached the command ship. Maya had never expected to see the Earth from orbit. The blue-green jewel hung below, partially obscured by Vraxian ships, beautiful despite the war raging on its surface. Focus, Commander, Kai whispered, bringing her back to their desperate mission. Their plan had been audacious to the point of insanity. Use a captured Vraxian shuttle to approach the command ship, send faked authorization codes generated from their decoded communications, and infiltrate. Dr. Okafor had remained on Earth, coordinating the electronic warfare aspect remotely. Somehow, it had worked until now. Security drones approaching, Eliza reported from her position near the shuttle bay entrance. We've got maybe 2 minutes. Maya nodded. Proceed as planned. Iwamoto, get that virus into their central systems. Chen, you're with me. We're finding the biological weapons control center. The intelligence they'd gleaned from the downloaded files was clear. The Vraxians were preparing to deploy a planet-wide biological attack designed to eliminate human resistance once and for all. What the Vraxians couldn't understand was that even facing extinction, humans wouldn't surrender. They'd fight until the last breath. It wasn't rational. It wasn't efficient. But it was quintessentially human. Maya and Eliza moved through the alien corridors, using the ship's schematics they'd studied. Twice they had to hide from Vraxian patrols, pressing into maintenance alcoves as the four-eyed aliens passed. There, Eliza whispered, pointing to a sealed doorway with biological hazard markings in the Vraxian script. That has to be it. Maya nodded, readying her weapon, a hybrid of human and Vraxian technology that Dr. Okafor's team had cobbled together. Cover me. Before they could move, a voice spoke from behind them in perfect English. That would be inadvisable, humans. They spun to find a Vraxian standing alone, unarmed, four-fingered hands held up in what appeared to be a universal gesture of peace. I am Analyst Ziv Zalin, he said. And I believe we share a common goal at this moment. Ziv had made his decision the moment he saw the human infiltration team on the security feeds. The Supreme Commander's order for biological purge violated not only hierarchy protocols but Ziv's own deeply buried sense of right and wrong, a concept the Vraxians had tried to engineer out of their species generations ago. these humans, with their irrational dedication to freedom, had awakened something in him. Something that had been dormant in Vraxian culture for too long. The biological weapons are already being prepared for deployment, he told the human commander Rodriguez, according to their intelligence. But there is another way to stop this. The female human kept her weapon trained on him, eyes suspicious. Why would you help us? Because your resistance has proven that our conquest algorithms are fundamentally flawed, Ziv explained. Because your species has shown that efficiency is not the only measure of advancement. Because he hesitated, because what we are doing is wrong. The concept of wrong, of moral rather than practical failure was almost foreign to modern Vraxian thought. Yet saying it aloud felt like rediscovering a lost part of himself. The human commander studied him for a long moment. What's your plan? The Supreme Commander has overridden standard protocols. If we can send proof of this to the Hierarchy Council, they will recall the fleet. Ziv gestured to a nearby terminal. I can access the command logs, but I need your help to transmit them. Your companion's virus is currently creating vulnerabilities in our communications grid. The younger human Chen kept her weapon ready. How do we know this isn't a trap? Ziv's breathing sacs inflated slightly. You don't. But calculate the probabilities, as my species does. If I wanted to capture you, security forces would already be here. Your mission has a 0.027% chance of success without my assistance. With it. He paused. The probability rises significantly. Commander Rodriguez's lips curved slightly. We humans aren't great at calculating probabilities, but we're excellent at recognizing sincerity. She lowered her weapon. Show us. The command center of the Vraxian flagship was chaos. Supreme Commander Colvarin bellowed orders as systems failed across the ship, the result of Kai's virus spreading through their network. Find the intruders, he commanded. Lock down all sensitive areas. Supreme Commander, a tactical officer reported, we have located the humans. They are in communication control sector, with analyst Ziv Zalin. Colvarin's breathing sacs fully inflated with rage. Treason. Deploy security drones immediately. But it was already too late. Across the ship, displays flickered as command logs were broadcast not just internally, but to the entire Vraxian fleet and, more importantly, directly to the Hierarchy Council light years away, logs detailing Colvarin's illegal biological purge order. His dismissal of Council protocols. His failure to adapt to human resistance patterns. What have they done? He hissed as his officers stared at the damning evidence. The answer came from an unexpected source, the main view screen activated to show the Hierarchy Council itself, their transmission having arrived through faster-than-light quantum channels. Supreme Commander Colvarin, the Council Elder's translated voice echoed through the command center. You have violated primary directive protocols. The conquest of Earth is hereby suspended pending full investigation. You are relieved of command effective immediately. 1 month later, Maya Rodriguez stood in the newly established terrestrial Vraxian Diplomatic Center in Geneva, watching as humans and Vraxians cautiously interacted. After the Council's intervention and Colvarin's removal, a ceasefire had been established. Remarkably, negotiations had begun, something unprecedented in Vraxian conquest history. Still can't believe we're talking instead of fighting, Kai said, joining her at the observation window. Turns out we impressed them, Maya replied. Not by winning, we couldn't have won a full-scale war, but by being unpredictable. By valuing things their algorithms couldn't quantify. Across the room, Ziv Zalin was deep in conversation with Dr. Okafor, both gesturing animatedly over some shared scientific concept. The Vraxian analyst had become the Hierarchy's chief diplomatic envoy to Earth, his unique understanding of human nature making him invaluable. Commander Rodriguez, Ziv called, noticing her. Please join us. Dr. Okafor has proposed a fascinating cultural exchange program. Maya crossed the room, nodding respectfully to the Vraxian. I'm listening. We were discussing your military training programs, Amara explained with enthusiasm. The Vraxian hierarchy is interested in understanding how humans develop such adaptability in their soldiers. Ziv's breathing sacs pulsed with what Maya had learned was the Vraxian equivalent of excitement. Your Tuesday morning warm-up particularly intrigues us. The concept of deliberately training under adverse conditions to build resilience has no parallel in our military doctrine. Maya couldn't help but smile at the irony. So you want to send Vraxian officers to train with us? A cultural exchange, Ziv confirmed. Your adaptability for our technological knowledge. Both species benefit. Eliza Chen joined them, now wearing the insignia of a full lieutenant. I'd pay good money to see Vraxians trying to get through our mud pit, she quipped. The first joint training session is scheduled for next month, Amara said. Lieutenant Chen will actually be one of the instructors. Maya looked around the room at humans and Vraxians cautiously building bridges between their species and felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The invasion had been stopped not through superior firepower, but through humanity's most defining traits: adaptability, unpredictability, and an indomitable will to remain free. You know, she said to Ziv, there's an old human saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. The Vraxian tilted his head curiously. An interesting concept. Inefficient, perhaps, but his 4 eyes blinked in sequence, empirically valid, based on recent evidence. Kai laughed. Just wait until you experience our easy combat training firsthand. I look forward to it, Ziv replied, with what Maya was beginning to recognize as genuine enthusiasm. Your species has already taught mine something invaluable. And what's that? Eliza asked. Ziv's breathing sacs pulsed gently. That there are some things in the universe that cannot be reduced to algorithms. That efficiency is not always the path to advancement. That freedom, he pronounced the word carefully, as if still growing accustomed to it, has a value that cannot be calculated. Outside the diplomatic center's windows, Earth continued its rotation, a blue jewel in the vastness of space. For the first time in Vraxian history, the hierarchy had encountered a species they could not conquer, not because humans were technologically superior, but because they possessed something the Vraxians had engineered out of themselves generations ago: the irrational, beautiful, powerful spirit that made humanity what it was. As Maya watched the sunset paint the sky in impossible colors, she thought that perhaps this was the greatest victory of all, not defeating an enemy, but transforming them into something new. Something better. Something that, against all odds and probability calculations, might one day be called a friend.